In this video, I am going to try and fix a BBC Micro, but not just any BBC Micro that I've picked up on eBay, but one of my BBC Micros. And the reason it's broken is because I broke it.
Excellent.
And if you've seen my previous video, you'll know a bit of background about it. But in essence, I tried fitting one of these to it, which is a Sideways ROM board, and it didn't go according to plan. I'll take you through the damage that I did to my Beeb, and I'll also give you a few tips perhaps as to how to avoid the problems that I've had if you're looking to fit one of these, which is the devil's own job. And then we'll get it fixed and hopefully finally see this working. So let's have a look at the Beeb and see what I did to it.
Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Mistakes will not be made.
Don't forget to check out the sponsor of this video, PCB Way. Not only do they do beautiful PCBs like this from as little as $5 for 5 boards, but they also do 3D printing, CNC machining and metal fabrication. Not only that, but they also offer a really simple online ordering experience and super fast shipping. So thank you to PCB Way for sponsoring this video. There is a link in the description. I highly recommend you check them out. So here's the Beeb motherboard already out of its case. And those of you familiar with the BBC will notice a couple of ICs missing, namely IC51 down here and IC73 up top. And these would have had sockets fitted, but I managed to mangle those. These are the two offending sockets which I managed to mangle, which, if I get it on the microscope, you should be able to see they're not looking particularly good, some of those pins. And if you have a look at the other one, they're just not very good. And indeed, they didn't work at all after I'd brutalised it. Managed to get those sockets removed, and I'll just show you on the microscope. I managed to do it very carefully without causing any damage to the board, fortunately. If we look down at IC51, somewhere down here, there we go. It's all looking good, fortunately. So no major damage, hopefully. It should be a case of resocketing these and fitting the board. But I'm going to do it in a slightly different way around to what you're perhaps thinking. So bear with me and I'll talk you through what I'm thinking of doing. Well, it's not what I'm thinking of doing, it's what I'm going to do. So my original plan, which I won't be following, was to replace the sockets with some of these 10-pin style ones. So the idea was being to bob those in, solder them into place, obviously stick another one up at IC73, and then Bob's your uncle and push fit the board. But I abandoned that plan pretty quickly, and I'll explain why. So here's the Sideways ROM board I'm looking to fit in. We've got a fly lead that we'll need to connect, and we've got the two IC connectors here and here, obviously. And when I tried fitting the turned pin sockets onto the pins of the board, before I've even tried fitting it, I just simply could not do it. I could not get them to push on, and it was becoming, I just couldn't manage to do it. I tried all sorts of different means, tried pushing them on with pliers and different other tools to try and get them to push on, but I couldn't do it. It's as simple as that. You might have more luck than me, but I couldn't get to do it. So I've come up with a different idea. And as you will see and I don't particularly want to dismantle it because it's taken such an effort to get them to this stage, where I've fitted, albeit a new version of these finger-style type sockets, onto the pins, which go on relatively easy. And then on top of that, if you can see, I've fitted a turn pin socket. The idea being then is I'm going to solder the sockets onto the board whilst already fitted to the expansion board. I've tried it, it all lines up. It's just a case of fitting it onto the board and soldering it into place, rather than fitting the sockets and then trying to push the board on. I really, really, really don't want to try going through that again. So that's my intention. That's the logic behind it. So I'm going to crack on and see how that works out. Well, as is often the case, there is good news and bad news, and I have been messing with this for several hours, and I'll save you including all that video because it's not been productive. I've even moved on to trying these, I don't know what you call them, but raised PCB type plug-in connectors. All to no joy, the machine doesn't start. The good news is when I do connect in the BBC chips, the BBC boots absolutely fine without the card. So that is a good thing. I've not killed the BBC. However, I've spent many hours now with the multimeter thinking what can be going on, and I think I have got somewhere. So let me show you what I've found. So this is the backside of what would be here, the operating system chip. Now, I'm going to get my magnifying glasses on. So I should have continuity through here, which I do there. You can hear the multimeter beeping. But when I go to the pin, I don't have continuity unless I give the pin a bit of a push. So no connection, give it a bit of a wiggle, and we've got the connectivity. So clearly there's a dry joint in there which I'm going to have to address. So I think the plan is, and it's a bit of a nuisance with this because I can't just get straight to the back side of it because of the socket over the top. So what I'll do is I will desolder the socket, and then I can hopefully manage to get that trace reconnected. I think it will just be a dodgy pin, because when I go, and this will be quite awkward to show you, but when I go to the socket on the top, he says, really fiddly to do, but I'll do my best for you. If I can just keep that on there whilst I touch on the back. So I'm quite happy that it's nothing to do with the board itself, it's the connection between the pin and the socket. If I just try that, I don't know whether this will work or not. Yeah, it's just not there, and it should be. So we'll take this off and we'll see what's going on underneath and see if we can fix it. Right, that's the socket removed. Let's give it a quick test. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Let's check the others.
No.
So everything is good apart from this one. Right. I think what I'll try and do is, if we flip over and have another look at the other side, there's no problem with the second part of the trace. Maybe this first bit's damaged. I don't know. I think the first thing we'll try and do is we'll just try reflow this joint and see if that fixes it. So let's just suck all the old crap off. And let's solder on. Let's put some fresh solder on. That's what I was trying to say. How's that looking? Right, let's just give it a continuity test, see if that made any difference whatsoever. Yeah. Let's just check the underside. Yep. Yep, so that is all good now. Whether that is the root of all my problems, I do not know, but we shall give it a try. I think we'll get this installed again, and let's see if it works this time, finally. Right, so I've thoroughly managed to confuse myself now, because I've put a new socket on, and I'll show you if I can stop knocking the camera. Right. Once again, I'm back to exactly the same situation that I was in before. Bit of pressure and it works. Everything else works fine. Check the next one. Yeah, perfect. But this one, no. But I'll try from the top, just touching the back of the leg, and it's not there. Whereas on all the other ones, we're good. But not this one. I'm confused because I thought I'd fixed it by resoldering that pin. Ah, that's annoying. Right, totally confused now. Why is it not connecting? Right, let me have a think. It's obviously a broken trace somewhere. So I've taken that socket off and the first row of pins. So that's the socket off. And the first row of pins I've taken off as well. Now, when I do the continuity test, he says poking everything with his head. I do the continuity test. It's all good. So I'm thinking what I had is, rather than a damaged trace, is I had a dry solder joint. So I'm going to put it together yet again. I'm satisfied that the board's good. So I'll put it together yet again and we will give it another try. Well, I think I've got to the source of my confusion and the problem. Whether it's the only problem or not, we shall find out in due course. But it says banging the camera, this head again, sorry. We have got connection there. And when we're touching it on there, we have connection. However, the issue is, and it'll be very difficult for me to film this for you, so apologies. But without touching the probe loops together, the wire is not passing the signal through. So I think that is the source of my problems. So I think what I'll do is I'll just put a little patch wire across if I can, and that should fix it for us, I'm hoping. So you join me back with the beep, and it's still a negative. It's still not working. When I power it on, get a long tone, and it's still not booting, which would suggest that it's not recognising the operating system there. Let me just shut that up. Which is quite annoying. I'll take you through everything that I have done since last updating you, and I'll just move the keyboard out of the way a little bit. So that where we had the dodgy wire, I repaired that, so that was working nicely. I've even taken the whole of the board out, and the motherboard, that is, out of the BBC with this attached, and every pin is connected. So I'm quite happy that it's not a fault of the dodgy socketing that I've struggled massively with. But nevertheless, it still doesn't want to work. So just when I thought this was going to be a failed video, it is not. It is a win video. Just to make sure I'm not cheating, I've got my two BBCs side by side. If you didn't watch my previous video, I got two of these expansion cards from eBay. And let me tell you why it's not a fail, how I got it working. Well, in essence, I put this back together. So this is my issue 4 board. I put this back together, and this did not boot. And I was sort of like, geez, what's wrong with this? Anyway, cut a long story short, because I could waffle on for hours. I didn't record it because I didn't anticipate, well, it'd be particularly interesting, to be honest, but I found out the problem, and it was due to when I had been disassembling this BBC and swapping out the sockets. I had ripped a wire, which I hadn't noticed. When I hadn't ripped it, it just come away. So I had to replace that, put a little wire through the wire, joined it back together, bit of soldering, put it back together, and it's working perfectly with the expansion board on. And as you can see, we've got two BBCs, and there we go. So if I go to, what should we do? Let's do Arachnoid. And there we go. It is working absolutely perfectly. I think the thing that's confused me is when I've tried fitting this, and there was definitely the problem with the operating system that was not connected. That was a dry joint. And with the operating system not booting, once I'd repaired that, I think it was good to go. But because I had damaged the PCB of the BBC, I was thinking it was still a problem with the board because it's giving that same fault. So there you go. That is a 2 for 2 win there from eBay. £35 for 2 of these ROM stroke RAM sideways boards. That is brilliant. Really glad it's not a fail. Well, that's kind of annoying. I was just going to put it back together, but when I am refitting the keyboard, it is just putting, I don't know if you can see that, it is just putting a little bit of pressure onto the expansion board. And as a result of that, the connection obviously isn't brilliant, and there's wobble on the board, and it's doing this on the beep. If I can show you, let me just get it hands-free. And it's not recognising that the language is there. How annoying. Well, I've got an idea as to what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to labour the point, because this was just about trying to fix my beep, and the beep is working without the expansion board. But for those of you that may be in a similar predicament as me, I'll have one attempt in this video to try and resolve it. And if that doesn't work, well, it is what it is. I'll maybe do another video in future, getting it all sorted. How annoying, but there's no two ways about it. There's the board isn't stable, is it? It's just obviously not making a brilliant connection. Never mind. I'll show you what I'm thinking. So I'm hoping you can see here that all these pins really aren't quite the same length. Now, I'm not quite sure why that has been the case, but one thing's for certain, that these pins are a bit too long. And so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and just trim them down just a little bit, so that hopefully it will get rid of that wobble, because this little rubber bit here should sit. It should sit just on top there, so it should go something like that, and then just sit on top and just stabilise the card. So I will try and trim these down a little bit. Wish me luck. Well, that definitely was not what I would call fun, but they are a little bit shorter now, and not perfectly even, are they? But very, very close. So hopefully that will improve things. Let's see. Right, we live in hope, eternal hope, don't we? Let's get this connected back up, red to the right. This is the hardest little upgrade I've ever done. If you haven't seen the other video I did on this, on the Sideways RAM board, you'll see that went without any issue whatsoever. But this one, total nightmare. Total nightmare. If I can find the video where I fitted the previous one, I'll put a link above for you to have a look. Worlds apart. Right, this one's not going in. That got it? Right. Still a bit of wobble. Oh, cross your fingers for me, please. I am fed up of this now. That feels really substantial. Better than it did last time. Better than it did last time. Come on, let's be positive. It's going to work. Right. Probably going to get some monitor wine now because I'm going to turn my monitor on. In fact, I need to connect the keyboard first because the Beeb is one of those computers that won't start without the keyboard. Speaker connected. Let's move these out of the way so we can get the ribbon cable fitted. I think I've got that on. Okay. Right, what we're like for clearance now. Well, it's not touching the board. It's not touching the board. Right, power on. Nope. So it's not detecting the OS. Right, let me have another play with it. Now I've literally tried everything that I can think of with sockets and doodahs and watchamajigs, and I just can't get it to work. And now, I don't know if you can notice, those two pins now have gone and pushed through. I'm hoping that I've not damaged the board in doing that. This has been really frustrating. I know the board works and the video is repairing my BBC, and I've repaired it and I broke it and I've repaired it again. So is it a win? Is it a fail? I'll let you decide in the comments. If anyone's got any ideas, I think what I might do is I might desolder all these pins here and replace them with some nice fresh ones, and maybe then I will get this board working. But for now, I've just simply had enough of this. So let's put the bead back together and let's make sure it is indeed still working. So we have another casualty, sad face. I've had to build myself another version of Basic 2 because for whatever reason, whatever I've done, I have killed this chip, or at least it seems. It doesn't want to work in any of those sockets, whereas it works fine with the one that I've burnt. Right, I've had a crazy idea, just because I don't want to end. If you've got this far in the video, I really do want you to be able to see this working. Now, as you can see, I've put a row of these. Look at this one that I've butchered already, trying to make this one. What a nightmare. But never mind, I've managed to get 2 rows of pins, and I've managed to get them, don't ask me how, stuck into a 10-pin socket. The idea being then that these will go in very nicely into the socket on the board. Now, the only difficulty I'm going to have, as well as I've got some damage to repair, if I can focus it, managed to damage a couple of the wires, which aren't going to be a big deal because I'll just put a jumper wire in to bridge across. So you just put a little wire across once I've got these soldered in. That's not going to be a problem because on the other side it's all a bit rubbish. But never mind. It's not looking too healthy at the moment with all this fight that I've been having with it. But we will get there. I'm hoping this will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder this on. It's going to make it a bit trickier when I come to fit the socket over the top, because I'm going to have to solder in between the pins. Dear me, I do apologise for my camera work here. So getting that socket soldered in, I'm just going to have to be a little bit more dexterous to get in between this socket that fitted effectively over the top, because right, enough talking. I will get back to you once I've got this one put together. Then I've got it all to do over here. Never mind. Right, that's been a couple of seconds for you, but that's been a good couple of hours for me, and what a slog that has been. However, as you can probably see, I have got a couple of jumper wires here, which, because I have lost the will to live working on this, it's not one of my neatest jobs, but it works because I found a couple of the pins on the continuity check weren't coming through. So the easiest way to do it was just stick a jumper wire in, because I couldn't face taking this off again and seeing where the break was. So that's one down. Oh dear me. Just one more to go. Just one more. Right. I'll join you back when I've got this one taken off and replaced. Well, we are finally getting somewhere. And by finally, I mean I have taken off this top socket and pins. I'll just show you under the microscope. That has gone much better than down there. Let's see if we can have a look at the microscope. And I will, of course, do a continuity check, as I did last time, but I'll do another continuity check and just make sure that everything is in order, but I think those are looking pretty good. Yeah, just a quick continuity check. Yeah, so I'm satisfied that that's all good, at least to begin with. So let's start putting the pins and sockets back in. I'll probably rejoin you when I've done it, because it's probably a bit boring to watch and difficult to film. Right, it's all together and all plugged in, and I didn't film that because I forgot. And I don't want to unplug it again and show you it being fitted, because I'm too concerned that I'm going to break something again. So let's do a quick check. I've got the operating system there, check, right way around. I've got a few ROMs connected to the board. I've got the digital to analog chip. I think that's what it is. I've had that much going through my head, I can't remember. I think that's what it is. And down at the bottom corner, I have got the language chip, which I know should be sat on the board as the highest priority on 15, which is where Arconoid's at the moment, but I know that it works there, so I don't want to mess around with that. So in theory, that is everything, I think. I've got the power connector for the board connected underneath. I've got the keyboard connected, because otherwise it won't work without the keyboard. That is everything, I think. So let's turn it on. We should get the BBC beep, hopefully. Yes! It's booted. I can't believe it. This has nearly killed me, I think. I don't want to exaggerate too much. It hasn't nearly killed me, obviously. But I have got absolutely fed up doing this. And it's finally booted with the board installed, which means that it's recognised that the operating system's present. It's recognised that the language is there. Let's star H dot. This should show me a list of ROMs, and it does. Got Arkanoid, Chucky Egg, Robotron. Right. Let's see if one of the ROMs fires. Right. Star Chucky. I am so excited. Right, let's see if that works. It's working. It's working. Let's just see if it plays. How many players? Well, just me. Don't know the keys, I can not define them. Is it working? I can't move. I shouldn't define the keys. None of the keys are working. Right, let's just escape out of that. Let's just try a different game. Star Robotron. Apologies to the shaky camera. That's working. Oh, paused it. Oh, come on, Simon, what are you doing? Well, it's working anyway, isn't it? Let's just try Arkanoid. Star Arkanoid. Perfect. Right. Well, it's working. It's working. Right, the other issue I had previously was the board was really wobbly. And it's solid as a rock now. Really solid. And I know you can't see my screen, but it's working absolutely faultlessly as I'm pressing away on there. There's no wobble there whatsoever. Obviously that side's unsupported, so I don't want to go pressing around too much. So if you're putting a ROM up there, you'd support the board while you pushed it in. Anyway, so that is non-temperamental. Now, do I have enough clearance to put the keyboard on? And I'm sure I will have this time. And I do. I've got the clearance that I need. That is not fouling. That's not touching anything. That is brilliant. Just time to put it all together, and then I'll give you a bit of a recap. As there's that much footage, I don't know if the editing of this video will make it make any more sense. So I'll give you a bit of a recap as to where we got to with this BBC. But it's working. So this video is a follow-on from my last video where I got 2 Sideways ROM boards off eBay for the BBC. And if you watched my first video, you'll see it went without issue. And if you're interested in the Sideways ROM board, I would highly suggest you watch that video because that really isn't what this video is about. The first one was installed and went absolutely fine. And this was the pig's ear. And I think I know what caused it, to be fair. I think, looking back on the card, I think there was a problem with the pins. I think they were either not quite aligned or some had been pushed through. As a result of that, when I went to fit it into the BBC, I managed to damage one of the sockets. Well, I think I damaged both of them actually in the end. And from that, I then went on and replaced the socket. And as a result of that, I caused damage to the board, which when I only discovered that when I abandoned this Sideways ROM card, and put the B-ball back together without it, and it didn't work. So that's when I discovered I'd caused more issues. And then, of course, once I've got that repaired, actually getting it to plug in, I don't know how much of the issue was with, this is the standard socket there. I don't know how much the issue was the turn pin and those wider pins, much beefier coming off the board. I don't know what you call them. Do you call them motherboard pins? I don't know. But standoff pins anyway. Let's call them standoff pins. They just really did not want to go into the turn pin sockets. Fine with the leaf type sockets, but no way on earth did they want to go into the turn pin ones, which then led me down a whole garden path of trying to adapt the board and make it fit. And what a nightmare that was. If it wasn't for making videos, I would have given up long since, I can assure you. If I could give any advice for anybody who is looking to fit one of these expansion boards, then double and triple check everything. Check those pins are perfect. If you have any doubt whatsoever, replace them, because I think if I'd have done that, I'd have been absolutely fine. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I hope you got something from it. And just in case I don't have another video out by Christmas, I will wish you a very Merry Christmas and thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the new year. Bye for now.